Let's get started. By the way, we're not taking any questions from the audience. And no heckling, especially from that back corner. And if there is heckling, there'll be reverse heckling from here. But it's great to have everyone. Look, thank you very much for joining us. And before I ask each of the guests to talk in some depths about their experience, and remember, the purpose of tonight is developing talent in young people in Western Sydney to empower those people to be future leaders in this community. And, you know, I'm passionate about that topic, and these 6 guests of mine are passionate as well. But I thought to myself, well, how do we go deep? What's the first question? What's a good opener? And if you think of yourself, you know, how do you know you're good at something? When did it first happen? Like, did you suddenly, you know, fall on the floor one day and wake up and say, God, I'm good at that? Like, how did that come about? Like, how does that materialise? And I'm going to ask each of the guests just to give me a short view about what was it from their background in terms of journey when they really figured out, well, gee, I'm talented at that. You know, I've got something that other people haven't got. So Greg, do you have a perspective on that, man? Hey?
So something that I found that sort of helped me pursue my career that it's also with it. Yeah. I actually speak about it a lot. I think being an athlete has sort of summed it up. I think, you know, as an athlete you always need to get better, you know, whether it's through your fitness or through your skills, playing in the team. And when I retired, I sort of took that same mindset everywhere I went. And I think I sort of kept finding gaps in different programs, whether I was engaging with organisations or with young people delivering services. I felt like I was always finding a better way to do things, seeing opportunities where those probably wouldn't if you didn't really want to get better.
So Greg, just to help the audience, and I think most of them will probably know, but Greg spent some time in the NRL, both at Penrith and also at Souths, yeah? Yeah. And so as an athlete, you played at a very high level. Yeah. And I guess what you're saying is that environment prepared you for knowing your strengths and talents, yeah?
Yeah, because I think when you're in that space, you got a video what you know what you're good at, what you're not good at. So you want to continue to focus on your strengths, which is important, but also fine-tune your weaknesses. I think, you know, as I say, you're in strength and weaknesses. I had a lot of injuries, so there's a lot of weak links there.
I love that. That's really interesting. And so, Sia, over the years, short years, when did you sort of figure out, well, gee, I'm pretty talented at this, I'm pretty good at this? When did it dawn on you that actually you know you've got a strength that you can use, do you think?
So when I was doing my bachelor's degree, it was in my secondary teaching degree in my bachelor's. I was often taught by the lecturers that, you know, you need to keep a high GPA so you can you'll get really good prospects in the private schooling system. And it wasn't until the end of my degree I started working at a low SES school. And that's when I really found that's where I wanted to be. Like, I didn't want to go into these private schools. I found that I related to these kids a lot better.
Yep.
And that comes from a lot of my upbringing. And that's where I found my sense of purpose. That's where I said, you know what, this is where I'm meant to be. This is a passion that's deep inside that's been burning in me, and I can really help these kids where I am at.
Wow.
So that's why I went.
And was that an emotional feeling? Like, how did it materialise?
I think when you find your purpose at something and why you're put here, I think that is when you find true happiness, and you go to work and it's not work. You're actually there because you enjoy it, and you're making a change. You're impacting the people that are around you, not just teachers, but you're impacting the young people as well. And going home, you feel really good about that, you know? Yeah.
I love that. That's very interesting. And and we'll hear more about your journey in a little while. Dale, no, I mixed it up. When did you know that you're good at something?
Don't think I'm good at anything.
So you haven't found out yet? There's nothing wrong with it, by the way, I don't think, is there?
No, I thought I was pretty good at footy, not as good as Greg, but back in the day, let's get it up.
All right.
Yeah, like I tried my best to get to the NRL level or somewhere close to that. Unfortunately, didn't get there. But then that sort of turned into me being an ideas man, I guess, and somewhat of an entrepreneur. And I've had all these ideas in different little ventures, most of that weren't successful over the years, and now we've come to this new venture that I think hopefully will change the world as well.
And I'm really keen to hear about Prolete, and we'll talk more about that. But what you're saying, I think, is I'm talented in generating ideas and figuring out ideas to meet a gap or an opportunity in the market, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking at what could I do to make a lot of money, basically, but also change my lives as well.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting.
And it's just so happens to be something that's to do with young athletes, so we can change a lot of lives.
Yep. Nice. Alicia, was there a period where you thought, gee, I'm good at that. I'm so good at that. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Well, I was like 7 and I was playing with my Barbie funhouse. And I was always playing with my Barbie funhouse, but never got my Barbies out. I was always building the houses. And I was like, oh, I'd love to make the curtains and visualize how they live, and you create a concept of this family. But I'd never actually get the Barbies out of the box. And that's when, it just embedded in me that I always loved changing rooms, a TV show. So I was like passionate about that. And I was like, I'm going to be an interior designer. And at the time, social media wasn't around. So it was a very la-di-da job. And when you say I'm going to be an interior designer, people are like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's the hardest industry to crack. But another thing in high school, I wasn't very good at school. I wasn't good at reading, I wasn't good at writing. But I had a gift of visualizing a room, like I can visualize this room and exactly with a complete makeover. And I didn't realize that that was a gift. I thought everyone could do that. And I didn't realize that that's the key to being successful in my career.
So I'm going to tease more of that out a bit later on, including when you realised that it was the gift, right? Because I think it's fascinating, and to be able to recount at such a young age that's what was passionate is it's amazing. Thank you, Alicia. Albert, when did you know how good you were, and what were you good at, and how did you find out?
Yes, with me, when I was born, the doctor said that I'd never speak, and told my parents that I had to learn sign language in order to communicate, and it goes back that far. And at the age, from birth all the way up to 7, my parents always told me that I'd never said mum or dad. And then one day I just spoke, and I look back at my journey, back where I've come from along the way. Every job that I've had has been this mouthpiece. And and I guess first time I noticed it, I was still in high school. I think I was in year 8 or year 9. And one of the boys' mums came up to the school, and she came straight up to me and said, are you able to help out my son? He took off from home. He ran away. And I think it was that day I thought, wow, she saw something in me.
Wow, so someone else put their confidence in you.
Yeah. So it's been, I've been blessed to work in prison systems, school systems, been blessed to walk into universities and speak to, corporate events. And I guess it just goes back to same thing as my sister here said. For me, it's not a job; it's a calling, and then it goes a lot further. And a lot of kids that I work with, they come to me with a frown, they walk away with a smile, and no money can buy that, bro.
No money can buy that at all. And I said we were going to go deep, but like that, it's very emotional, Albert, and I really feel a great sense of purpose there, that no one's going to keep you quiet.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Unless they jump in front of me at KFC on the line, man.
Thank you, Albert. Jeremy,
Hey,
lucky last, but tell us, when did you figure out that you had a talent?
I think for me, it probably dates back to my childhood. So when I was about 12 or 13, as much as my cousins hated me for it, after school I'd run my own tutoring sessions with them. So we'd sit down after school, I'd get them to do their homework. I even created like little timetables for them as well. And as much as they hated it, I knew that it was my calling somehow. Yeah. I wanted to be a teacher. I think it wasn't until I was maybe 19 or 20 that I kind of admitted to myself that that was a career that I wanted to pursue. And I think every time my family asked me what I wanted to do, I always had in my mind that I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to do law. But it wasn't until first or second year uni that I thought, well, I want to make a difference. And I think educating youth and listening to their stories and paving a way for their future is the way to go. So I think that was my calling, and I recognised that I was good at teaching.
And you figured that out about second year uni, yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
So maybe just reflect on that, audience, but I think it's an interesting question, and there's no right or wrong answer. Some people identified what they're good at, what their calling is very early in life. Other people probably still haven't identified it, but that's not necessarily an issue to judge. But I think it's an important aspect when we're looking at talent. And so tell me, Greg, tell me about Creative Spring. Tell me about how you identify talent and what Creative Spring does in the community to nurture that talent in young people. Tell me about Creative Spring in a sense of how you identify talent with the young people you work with, and then how you nurture that or assist in nurturing that in the community.
So Creative Spring, it all sort of started from me basically creating programs and workshops that I needed as a young person, the challenges I faced. So for me, like if you're not, there's no goal you have, if you have things holding you back, I feel like you can't really, sort of push through, carry that weight. So with the programs we have, I feel like I filled a lot of gaps at supporting young people through different milestones of their life. And we have up to like 10 different programs that actually do that. So we're in primary schools with our More Than Movement program, high schools with our Dynamic Development program. We also utilise that within the home care space too, incorporating the reading care plans, and behaviour schools, post-care options, and also sports teams and whatnot. So for me, how I sort of feel like I get the best out of a young person is to, when I did create the program, I sort of created for my younger self, and I made everything activity-based. So for me, if it wasn't like sport or activity, I was not keen at all. So and I feel like it's still like relevant today. So everything we do, all our programs, is activity-based.
So is there an element of fun in all of that?
Yeah, I think what's fun gets done, as I always say. Plug that one in. But yeah, so just every program is different how we operate. So More Than Movement, our primary school program, which we facilitate at James Wilson Park, we use yoga as the engine. We sort of break that down and incorporate the personal development workshops, e.g. Communication, leadership, all those sort of things. and also have an activity related to that topic, so they remember that. I think, you know, if you remember the fun thing you do, they might be relate that to, oh, that was around, you know, communicating good, you know. So have fun with what you do. I think, you know, all the boring stuff can be fun.
Yeah.
And it's a great game too, and it's been really great for us too. So.
Yeah, interesting. And of the young people you're helping, you know, what does that community look like? What sort of problems are they facing? Are they having trouble at school? Are they having trouble at home? Are they a little bit lost in what they want to do and where they want to go?
Yeah, so I think since you asked that question, because we work in the other home care space too, mentoring kids in foster care, other home care, so, and I think they have a whole different world of challenges compared to your normal average Joe. I think they have a lot of attachment issues, abandonment issues. So for us, with our mentoring program, again, we keep it fun, the activity based, but we're consistent, you know. So they might have a different caseworker or change placements, you know, every second week, but we're that sort of anchor in their life that they can sort of count on, and we try to keep the same mentor going as well, so there can be that positive relationship building. And yeah, and how we operate with documentation, I think we track their progress, we can provide progress reports as well. Just, but back to my football days, I feel like
I was just going to say.
I think for me, like, you know, always trying to find a way to get better. We try want that as well for every client that comes through our service. And for us, I think that point of difference is also cut off there is because we support a young person throughout the milestone of their life, we can be, you know, a familiar sort of community, familiar brand for them when they are transitioning. So it's sort of a safe space for them, which is why we continue to do things in the community with our community initiatives. And you know, if someone does complete our programs and send you down the track they want to jump on board, that'd be great. You know, we can sort of help. Even when they do a one-off program, they're always, you know, welcome. I think.
Well, I think the measurement part, the performance part, dare I say, there's an element of accountability there, right? Yeah. So in a sense, I mean, as you said, it's back from your sort of professional football days, where it wasn't just the physical performance necessarily, but it's how you performed in a relative sense over time. And it appears that you've tried to bring that into your community programs to assist, I guess, you know, your clients, the young clients, see how they're changing over time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like any sort of youth worker or community worker knows the change they have with the young person, but the biggest challenge that both people might face is actually showcasing that to the caseworkers, the people that are, you know, paying the bills, so they can see the work ethic that you're putting in, but they see the value. You know, I feel like I've created systems where they can show that value. You know?
Nice. I mean, I'm going to jump from there to Barbie. Yeah. From there to Barbie? Well, Barbie's house.
Alicia,
Yes.
you said you loved that house and changing the rooms, but when did you realise that it was a special talent? And take us through that journey from there to building a business.
So I always loved interior design, and I'm not going to lie, I nearly failed TAFE because I wasn't good at reading and writing. So they always said to me, you're great at talking though, and you're great at the work itself. So I always felt like a failure, constantly. And even starting my business, I was like, oh, it's hard, but let's do it. But then people started to tell me, you're really good at what you do. You're gifted. And I used to not take it seriously, but then it come to a point where people just wanted me to keep designing their houses or businesses, and work was getting busier and busier, and I was like, wow. So I think it actually hit me once my business was established that I've actually meant to do this.
And that was about 7 years ago, am I right?
Yeah, I've always had a business from the day dot from TAFE, because I've always been like a little bit of a book smart, street smart entrepreneur, always wanting to, you know, make my next move. But I'd say predominantly 8 years ago.
But it sounds like to figure out that gift a bit, you were attuned to what people were saying about you, right? And you were getting their feedback and you were taking that in.
Yeah.
And they were giving you good feedback, yeah.
Yeah, and social media, like just the results we had, I started off with 200 followers and now I'm almost at 20,000. So it's that people love what I do and they love to follow what I do.
So that's a nice affirmation of your gift, right?
Yeah.
I think it's another way of looking at it. And was it hard in the kind of early days of that TAFE and business journey, building an interior design, flashy business like interior design in Western Sydney?
It was very hard. We spoke about this yesterday.
Yeah.
And I actually had to hide the fact that I was from Penrith, surprisingly, for years.
Really?
Because people didn't want to know me because I wasn't a la-di-da city designer. So they were really shocked when I came out about 5 years ago and I was like, you know what, I've had enough. Like, I'm proud that I'm from Penrith. I learned to accept it and be proud of it. And now I'm such an advocate for my local area. And I'm so proud about it. And I don't care if the people in Mossman or whoever's watching on that, they see Western Sydney as a stigma. I really don't care anymore. I'm just here to show that we have talent in Western Sydney. And I'm really about that. So,
Do any of my other guests see that stigma? Has that affected them in your journey? Does anyone see that?
I think definitely for me going to university, I went to Macquarie. And a lot of the people that I went with, or the tutorials that I attended, I felt like I had to hide the fact that I was from Western Sydney because I felt like I'd be looked down upon. So yeah, I feel like I can totally relate to that.
Anyone else?
I think what's changing the game for us now at Penrith is guys like Tyson Glassar, Tyson Pedro, and Anthony Cleary, even Mark guys that Alicia himself. And like everyone that's killing it in business now, like Jake Farrier, Brink West, like all the people that open up cafes and well, not even that, just everyone that's doing something big. It's all coming out of Western Sydney, man. Like all the sports stars, the business people.
They're showing what the West is made of.
Exactly. So I'm not like.
So you're saying this is where innovation is?
100%. Like I'm not. Like I'm proud, 100%, be from here, Western Sydney itself, like not just Penrith, because we're doing big things,
Thanks, Dale.
Albert, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, it's funny, just today there was a lesson in school about, there was a girl session, and I took my sister's medals and trophies, and I didn't tell them what those medals were, and so they got up there and they were touching the medals, looking at it and having fun with it. And then the lady that was facilitating asked me, okay, I was going to come up and talk about these medals. So I got up and I just said, look, not many people get to hold these medals, and not many people know that Australia's strongest woman came out of Mount Druitt. And they looked at me and they said, wow, and I said, yeah. And my sister was bullied all her life and was told that she was never attained to anything. But she never told me and my brothers that she was bullied.
Really?
I think she was too scared
to admit it. Wow.
But yeah, like you said, bro, I always grew up. I grew up in Mount Druitt, and there were times there where I used to say I wasn't from Mount Druitt when I was younger because of what people were saying. But as I grew up, I started working. I said to the kids, one thing I want you to do, if you're ashamed of Western Sydney, I want you to go to the train station at around about 4 or 5 o'clock and see how many people jump off those trains with suits. And you tell me who's working the city, bro. It's us people from out west, and I'm proud to come from out west, and it's about, for me, it's always about not just me. I always want to put the next person on my shoulders so that I can launch them from where I've come from. Yeah, and I think that's the heart of many of the boys as well. I've known Ty since he was a baby, and all the other guys that have grown up around the area, the same thing, If we want to make this place great, let's put everybody on their shoulders and launch them, because one day someone's going to counsel my grandkids, and if we don't leave that platform now, if we don't, invest in it now, it's like a house. I invest in the kids that I work with.
So it's like climbing ladders together, right?
Yeah.
And Sia, are struggles good in a young person's early stage of development in their teens? Are struggles good, or should we be trying to get rid of those struggles? What's your perspective?
Look, I think when you do have struggles or you do have adversity in your life, it does make you become more, you can persevere a lot more to challenges that come ahead of you. But just before we go, I just want to say, Alicia, amazing. Like, if I can find a student like you that learns differently and I can teach that student that that's your passion and pursue it, I'll be like seeing you in the stars. But like, yep, that's what I was here for, So I love it. I don't know how much you want me to talk about this because it's...
Oh, look, I'm interested, right? I mean, reflect on your own journey, right? Have struggles helped you get to where you're at? Because, Alicia mentioned the stigma issue, right? And, I've got an open mind. I mean, what does that stigma come from? Is it because people elsewhere look at Western Sydney and say, oh, it's Struggle Street, right? They're all doing it tough and, there's no innovation, there's no-nothing there. It's all where we are, so to speak. But I'm getting a different message to that, right? Right? Well, because Dale's telling me this is where innovation is. This is the home of innovation.
Yep. So
what's your perspective?
I feel like when you look at young people within Mount Jewett, they have a lot of, it's generational. Their backgrounds, the families that they come from, they can come from broken families, they can come from, different types of families, but their struggles, it will continue within that circle if they don't break it. And for me, I feel like education is the thing that's going to take them from where they are and take them out of those struggles. So hence the reason I became a teacher, and I work with kids that are from these backgrounds because I've been there myself, and I know that if that mindset doesn't get broken, they're just going to continue the cycle of poverty. They're going to continue to be like the leaders that they have in their homes, whether they come from a broken home or whether they come from a home that's, that has poverty in their home. It's just going to continue. And for me, as a young person growing up, I had my son when I was 15. And that for me was that was a pivotal moment in my life where I knew that if I didn't break that cycle, I would have continued to just be left in that. So like Albert, I came from Mount Jewett. My father was an alcoholic. My mum was a distant mum. She just threw herself into work. She didn't want to deal with what was going on at home. So growing up, and getting pregnant at 15, I had no support. I was basically homeless at 15. I was kicked out of home. So when I look at life, it was just as soon as I had my son, it was right, am I going to continue on and live like this, or am I going to go to school, despite what everyone says about me, you're a young mum, you're stupid, look what you've done, or am I going to go to high school, am I going to get my high school certificate, am I going to, do my best? At that stage, it was called a TER. I would go on to university and be something. And as much as those struggles were for me, I persevered and I did it. And it taught me so much resilience. The gossip, there was a lot of gossip in our town, I guess, because we're from a Polynesian background, so all the Polynesians know each other, and there was a lot of gossip. I was looked down upon a lot. But you know what, I went through it and I said, I'm going to do this for me, I'm going to do this for my son. And when I finished high school, I came out with a really, really good score on my TER, but I didn't go into uni at that time. My choice was to raise my family because I didn't have a family that loved me. And so my first point was to raise that child, because the one thing you'll never ever get back is time with your kids. And so I decided I'm going to be an at-home mum, met my husband, we had more kids, and then later on in life I said, right, my kids are gone to school, I'm going to university, I'm going to pursue my dream. And so now when I'm working within these schools and I see these kids, I see them, I see why they behave the way that they do, I understand the challenges that they face, And for me, building those relationships with those kids, I'm going to find ways that they're going to learn. I'm going to, you know, and I care about them. I'm a teacher that's going to be empathetic to what's going on. And, you know, I want to leave a legacy that says, yeah, you know, Miss Smith, she was the one that taught me in high school and led me to go to university or be something. Just like Alicia, like I think I want to see more of that. You know?
Watch out for Miss Smith. Hey, what a passionate lady. And look, Sia, when that pregnancy happened, right, and you decided, I got to fend for myself here and I got to get this sorted, were there other things or people around you that helped you in any way to develop that strong will, or was that just Sia Smith as we know you today?
No, okay, so I didn't have family that really cared, but there were people in the community like these guys here that helped me. Like I had youth workers that said, you know what, you can go to school, we can help you with housing. They just showed me that they cared and that they will be there to help me. And I think that's what helped me get to where I am. I just didn't do it alone. I just had people around me that cared.
But also you mentioned, I don't know whether this is my word, right, but a degree of shame from the tight-knit community that you're in, right? How did you deal with that? Or was that just something personally that you had to sort of wrestle with?
Look, it saddened me, it really did. Like I really felt like a failure, like especially when you're 15 and 16, 17, like at that age you're supposed to be enjoying your childhood, you're supposed to be out in the movies with your friends, but I'm here looking after a child, and then I have people within my community saying you're a letdown, you know, like how disgusting, how could you have a kid at your age, or you're just going to end up in housing commission, you're going to end up this. So for me it was like, it sort of built a bit of a fire in me, like, no, I'm not going to be like that.
I'm going to prove them wrong?
Yeah, 100%. And I did, and I got a job in the Commonwealth Bank when I left high school. And so in the Commonwealth Bank, everyone was like, Sia's working in the Commonwealth Bank. And I was like, yeah, I own your money.
Thank you, Sia, for sharing your story. And you mentioned something about education there, and I'm actually going to go to Dale now. And talk about a different perspective, but I'm going to come back to the education piece because we have Jeremy here, and I think he can add some value in that area about how the system works or doesn't, and what's happening to make it more ambidextrous, if you like, to the issues and problems of the team that are educating our young people. But first, Dale, talent scouts. What do these talent scouts look like, for God's sake? I don't think
they look like you.
Yeah, well, as I said, like I've selected 6, right? Six talented people, and they're on my team tonight. I'm so lucky, right? All I have to do here is prattle on, and they do the heavy lifting, right? And luckily, there's no performance measurements. So, well, there probably is actually, but you know, what's the gap you've identified in the market, and what's Prolete about? What are you trying to achieve as it relates to talent development of young people?
Yeah, the gap that we found was, and Greg will probably maybe know about this, is that, you know, athletes in all sports are relying on word of mouth and people being at your game, like scouts and agents and all that sort of thing, to get discovered. Me, for example, I had my worst game in the most important game of my life in the grand final at Penrith Stadium, and that's when everyone's watching, right? But the whole season I had a blinder of a year. Should have probably got picked for Penrith, but didn't, and that purely because it's luck. Relying on people being at your game, word of mouth, all that sort of thing. So what we're trying to build is, or what we are building, is a mobile app, a tech company that sort of streamlines that whole process and brings it all in the middle. So talent scouts, agents, coaches from around the world eventually, and then the athletes, the talent on the other side, uploading highlights, creating their profiles, and just giving them more of a platform to push themselves.
To show their talent to people that might be interested, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
think
Greg.
probably some teams might just mandate that as their own social media platform. Might be a lot safer than some ethics that we could have to. But yeah, I think it's amazing. We'll check out the back there or out there. I think you found a massive gap because my own experience as well with my manager doesn't actually tell you all your opportunities. You know, I think you sort of shared what work best for you. So I think being able to showcase yourself, your highlights, I think it's awesome. So sort of hopefully we can work together.
And look, from a young person's perspective, in the school system, across a range of sports, right? When is talent first identified? Like when, you know, I mean, in a practical sense, when should they be loading up their profile into your app? And when are scouts actually looking at people and saying, well, wow, you know, this is you know, in one generation time, this is the next Nathan Cleary, for instance.
Yeah, well, 12 years old, they've got development teams at Penrith at 12, 13, 14.
You probably do it as young as you want, really, because I know a lot of clubs tend to give their younger players little contracts that they might pay for your membership to secure you at the club, you know. So I think at a young age, I think it's important for parents to be mindful of those things as well and sort of see between the lines a bit. But yeah, I think any age, you know, because they might be playing footy, but their skill set could be also the NFL, you know. So I think it sort of creates options for a person. Because I think in Western Sydney sometimes you have television footy, you know, that's what your parents or they're sort of coming into, but I think, you know, today's day and age, you can play whatever if you are athletic enough, you know.
100%. And David Beckham got picked up I know it's David Beckham. It's like the Nathan Cleary, right? But 8 years old back in the day, they're still looking at that age. Like there's all these rep teams around the world, in Australia, soccer, you know, that's just soccer, but they're picking them up at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
I actually want to raise the issue. I'm interested you raised the issue of David Beckham. I just had the pleasure of watching the Netflix documentary.
So good.
It's so good, so good. And if anyone hasn't seen it, it's worth having a peek at. But David Beckham's a really interesting guy, right? Because he was very talented at the sport he chose, as you said, from a very young age. But he built a brand and a business and an empire beyond the sporting field. Now, some would say, well, that was because he married Posh Spice, but I don't think it was. Although Victoria is an amazing lady, and you know, has been a fascinating contribution to that journey as a partnership. But you know, I'm interested to explore this a little further. The whole issue about pursuing a professional career in sport as a young person versus a lifelong journey. Because the cynics would say, oh, well, you know, from a financial perspective, you're a sports person, you're only of value for 15 years and then you're done. And what have you got after that? But you might have a different perspective than that. I don't know. Has the panel got a different perspective? Is it, in other words, is sport something that parents should be pursuing for their young children regardless because it's good about health and fitness? Or is it the wrong career choice because it's finite? And it's only the savoured few like the Beckhams of this world that get to the top of the tree and build a brand beyond it.
I think it's like being a singer or a dancer. It's the same circumstance. And I think it's your upbringing and your family values. And it's like, no, you need to go to uni and become an accountant. I think it's your upbringing, where if your parents are mad fanatics, like let's just say we have a traditional Indian family, they're very like educated. So I think by their son saying, I want to be a sports star, it really depends on your cultural aspect as well. I feel like that has a lot of influence to it.
Interesting. Anyone else got perspectives on this little conundrum?
What size shoes are you, bro?
What's that?
What size shoes?
What size shoes?
Yeah.
11G. 11 and a half, actually.
11 and a half. I'm a size 13.
I am in sneakers 13 as well.
Why I'm saying that is because there's a lot of families that try and fit their son into a size that they're not doesn't fit them. Yeah. That I'm not taking anything away from sports, but when I work with kids, when boys come up to me and say, I'm going to be the next football star, I said, what happens after that? Sometimes if you can go play football this weekend and you get an injury that could take you out for the next couple of years. What have you got thinking after that? Like, and I've worked with so many parents that push their kids. It's good, you know. Sports is a part of life, but there's a point where if you're a parent and you're pushing it because you want to live your dreams through your kids, then it's never going to happen. You know, and you're actually pushing the kid further away from that sport because he's probably into something else. So if I try to wear you a size 11 shoes, all I get is blisters.
And you get big ones, I reckon.
Yeah, big ones, you know. And I just put it that way. Like I've seen over year, like, yeah, it's good to be, you know, play for your local team, local, you know, Panthers and that. But I look at it as how many make it to first grade?
It's a small percentage. It is a small percentage.
Yeah.
0.01%.
Yeah. There are some stats out there for it.
Yeah. But like what I'm trying to say is, like you got over how many thousands of kids trying to get into a squad of 28, you know, and they get all that time throughout their teenage life. And I've seen it so many times, kids that have come through school and they've put everything into football. But what I tell them is, look, you can own your own business. You can be an entrepreneur. And there's only a few jobs after NRL and Channel 9. And if you're not the elite, you're not going to get it. You know what I mean? So for me, I always give reality to kids that I work with. Like I said, if that's your dream, then run after it. But always have that other plan. And the other plan should be, you know, you can start your own business.
Plan B.
And be your boss.
Thanks.
You know?
Thank you, Albert. Greg, you've transitioned, right? How was that? Did you always have that in mind?
No, it was always a challenge. Like, it was always trial and error. I just want to dive into the other question you had. But
Go.
I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
It was just more on a program we actually created. It's probably my last program out of something I've done, but this one's called Prepared Athletes. And it's all around everything you guys are talking about, you know. I think it's a 3-part program. Actually, linking up with Malachi to bring that alive. We actually had a chat about it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So tell us a bit about that, right?
Yeah, so really it's all about, I think, getting into having a conversation with the athletes, and it's about preparing the athlete, no matter what sport you play, really. And we want to get them at that transition phase, you know, so getting ready for that next step, so they're aware of what they're getting themselves into. So we sort of work on their sort of past, whether it's trying to pick them up the program. Yeah, so it's really a 3-part program. Past, present, future, and just knowing how to leverage from your time when you're in there. It is a short time, you know. So if you can market yourself right, you can really make something of yourself and propel yourself. So it might be 2 years, 1 year, whatever it is.
Yep.
I think you're in a space where you can market and brand, pick up with all the sponsors, and really make something of yourself. And that's what I think Malachi done really well. And that's probably why I picked up with him, because he leveraged it for his time, starting his watch brand. But also there's the future as well. That's the third part of the program where we're upskilling them, just getting them aware of life after footy, just having a conversation.
Yeah.
There's a statistic around players who actually work on that post-career option end up performing a lot better on the field. I think because, you know, there's that safety blanket sort of already there ready for you. You sort of go 100 miles an hour, you're not thinking about life after footy. That sort of plan's already in place, whether you're at uni or starting your own business. But I think it's important too, if you're in there, because it is, as you said, you know, you can break your back and be out in a couple of footy forever. That was basically me as well. I retired at 23. This goes back to your other question.
Yeah. Well, come in on that. I mean,
What's the question?
well, I was going to ask you.
Sorry. Ramble on a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's challenging, right? Retiring at 23.
Yeah.
And, you know, being extremely focused for those years leading up to 23 to deliver what you aspired to do.
Yeah, it is very disheartening. The brother said it earlier, you sort of train your whole life to do something and don't succeed, you know. I feel like I was always on the brink debuting. I never actually debuted, you know, so I was always in the top squad. I was the highest paid school kid in Australia in year 11.
Yeah.
So there's always that pressure to actually, you know, live up to the expectation. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself as well, you know. I think I wants to buy their mum and dad a house and all those sort of things, so hasn't happened yet. Mum and dad are still in Tregear, so I'm a nanny boy myself, so it's good to see.
But you made the transition.
Yeah, so that took a lot of trial and error. I think when after my, so I've had like probably 3 knee reconstructions. There's always ongoing injuries, and for me, my escape was the party scene. I think I had a lot of the pressure coming through, and I sort of put on that facade as like the party animal to sort of overcome that.
Yeah.
And obviously, for recovery, alcohol isn't the best thing for it. So I had another opportunity at the Rabbitohs after I tore my tricep the bone, and I sort of threw the towel in, you know. So for me, I sort of just jumped straight back on the horse. Knew I had to get a job and start thinking about life after footy.
Yeah.
And I started from the bottom. I started working at the Star Casino. They sponsored Rabbitohs at the time. Picking up glasses, so when I see glasses at the table, I'm sort of ready to...
I thought we were going to reach over there.
go and help out the team. Then from there, just, you know, PC, the employment industry, and then that's when I sort of started seeing gaps in programs in the community, just serve delivery, and I felt like I could do a better job. And I started creating my programs from there.
Well, and I can, you know, the future development program you were talking about, I'm just not sure what you call that.
The dynamic development program?
The dynamic development program, you know, clearly you've done the hard yards, right? So
I feel like I put a lot of time and money into the business for like so long without any income. And I feel like the last 2 years it's sort of really hitting hard now and sort of showing value in what we offer because there is a need for our programs. It's a matter of sort of showcasing that to the organisation as well. And
Great. Thank you, Greg. I'm going to go over to Jeremy and talk about education in a minute, but Dale, when are we going to see Prolete? Because I've got a bit of talent and I'm looking for some scouts. When are we going to see it out in the market? And you know, how's it coming along?
What position do you play? Orange peeler.
Orange pillar, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're in testing phase at the moment with the mobile app. But it's funny, like that's how it started. The idea was a mobile app, but I thought that it wasn't enough. So we're starting to build out some other little products, a bit more of an ecosystem for the athletes in regards to similar to Greg, like a bit of education and like testing and stuff like that. And we're actually, me and Greg are talking about something that's pretty cool that will kill it in the community and give a big platform, hopefully, for some aspiring athletes. You know, because you see all these kids, like they look up to people like Jordan Mailata, you know, people from kids from Mount Druitt, and he's transitioned from NRL to the NFL. That's a big stage, right? But we want to do more of that. We want more of that to happen. So
I'm excited about what you're doing because you're all about talent ID and nurturing that. And I think, you know, Greg and Albert have added to this discussion about, you know, how it's sort of the past, the present and the future and how we integrate that. If I can give a business perspective, you know, we value a lot of businesses and we look at a lot of businesses inside out, and the really successful businesses are the ones that are not singularly focused but very focused on what they're delivering. And we know as humans that, you know, we're much better if we can focus on 1, 2, 3 things than 10 things at a time. And so the cracker businesses, like the ones we've heard about from Alicia today, for instance, are very focused. But the really strongly valued businesses, over time, they build escape paths. They build options. Because as decision makers, as individuals or as business owners, we're much better if we have options. When we're forced into a corner, you know, things are hard, right? And sometimes, as we've talked about, struggles are actually the mother of ingenuity and innovation. But to build value in a business or an organisation, having those escape paths and those different options helps. So congratulations, Dale, on your work with Prolete, and I think all of us fondly watch it coming to fruition. Jeremy, you're a leader in the teaching team at St Clare, at St Clare High School at Hasslegrove, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about what your role is there now, and particularly reflecting on a bit of the discussion, including Sia's point about the importance of education. How do you add value to the teacher base there from what you do to help them do better at the ground level with their students?
Okay. Wow, that's a really complex question, Pricey. So I'm an English teacher at St Clare High. I've been teaching for about 12 years now. I've recently moved to St Clare High 2 years ago. So yeah, I love the school, I love the people that I work with, I love the students as well. It's really, really good. In terms of my leadership role, so it's an innovative role that has been happening for about 2 or 3 years now. So it's called the Leader of Orientation, Accreditation and Development, otherwise known as a LOAD. So essentially what I do is I orient new staff into the system. I work with new scheme teachers and beginning teachers on their accreditation reports, getting their lesson observations done and making sure that they're meeting the teaching standards. And one of the most important roles that I feel that I do at the school is leading the Associate Teachers Program. So essentially, over the last couple of years, we've had a shortage in teachers, retaining teachers. It's not just in our school, but in a number of schools where it's felt like a revolving door, where teachers just come in, they realise that teaching is not for them, it's really tough. And we wanted to find a way to kind of bridge the connection between people in their university studies, having a little taste as to what it was like to be in the classroom, figure out if teaching was right for them, yep, and then make an informed judgment prior to moving into the teaching profession. So I think with the Associate Teachers Program, it's not something that I've created 100%, but it is something that I am currently leading. We started off from a team of 3 associate teachers, and now it's developed to a team of just over 17 within a year.
So associate teachers, so these are the people at uni that are studying teaching, and they might be, what, 19, 20?
Yeah, 19, 20, 21. I think my youngest is 19 on the team.
Yeah.
And essentially they're first, second year teachers who are obviously studying in education, but they would like a little bit of experience exposing themselves to the teaching profession. So I think for a lot of them on the team, they do get a bit bamboozled or a bit surprised at the fact that we do work outside of 8 to 3. Developing quality.
Well, that's a surprise to me too. Sorry.
Yeah, developing quality lesson plans, programming, marking assessments. It's something that I know for me, hanging out with mates on the weekend or even with family, being prejudged by the fact that, you only work with a certain time frame, and not knowing that in order to be a quality teacher, or with any profession for that matter, you need to put in the hours and you need to put in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty much what we do. And what was the second?
Well, I'm just interested. Now, those young sort of teachers, they've probably been at high school, training teachers, right? They've been at high school, say, 2 years. They come into to your group, and you've got 17 of them. What are they like in terms of dealing with students? How are their tools? Are they student ready at that point, or are there things that you need to do to help them with that?
I think, I can't take total credit for it. Obviously, I've created systems and processes in place where they actually get to go and watch experienced teachers live in action. They get opportunities to team teach or program or mark like pre-tests or stuff like that. But I think for them, the big reality check is, and particularly being quite young, is knowing that you can be friendly with the students, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be their friend. And I think that's a big thing, even for me, doing my prac at 19 years old. You know, trying to build a relationship with the kids is one thing, but I think knowing that you, at the end of the day, you're the adult in the room, you're there to build a connection with them and not necessarily be their friends, have those boundaries, but building those connections and those relationships are the big, crucial things I think they need to learn. Yeah.
How does the communication aspect work? I mean, I imagine there's, you know, a cohort of kids in a class, everyone responds probably differently, yeah? So as a young teacher, I mean, yeah, you've learned to communicate, but gee, it must be hard going in. I think if I was 19, I'd be shaking my 11 and a halves, right? Like, is that how it is, or?
100%. I think, this is again just me generalising, but seeing a lot of our associate teachers either still studying at uni, a lot of them are quite academic in a sense that, oh, I'm getting HDs or I'm getting distinctions, that must mean I'm a really good teacher. And the thing that I'm trying to break in their mind is that if you were teaching, say, a low ability class or a mixed ability class, you need to be able to code switch.
That's right.
And I think for me, working at a school, our context is predominantly low socioeconomic. So I work in the Mount Druitt Hasselgrove area. A lot of the kids want to know a little bit about your life. They want to know a little bit about you as a person, and not using so much, you know, academic jargon or language, but really breaking things down. I know for me, when I'm with my Year 7 class, I'm kind of like, yo, what's up? And, you know, kind of have those glimpses and moments where I do show a little bit of my personality. I think that's the skill in itself. And for me, it's taken 12 years and I'm still perfecting it. It's taken time to code switch, but knowing how to adapt your language to the kids in front of you, getting to know them as people, and building that connection, I think, is the most important thing. And that's what's invaluable about the Associate Teachers Program, is that they get that experience and they build on that expertise.
So, you know, you put a lot of emphasis on communication there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think of teaching and I think of technical skills, right? You know, I guess communication is a technical skill, but it's got to be key, hasn't it? But it must be hard because you said, you know, you can't, it's not about friends, but it's showing a personality. But I guess it's also understanding that different young people will respond differently from different communication, yeah? Yeah.
Could I just say something quickly?
Yes.
My experience at school with teachers, I feel like the ones that were like very strict and all about academics, which is fine, they were the ones that no one really got along with. But the ones like these guys here, who were more like fluid and more like, you know, obviously
They showed
bit
their
of
care. They showed
exactly,
their
yeah,
care.
bit of discipline,
They
obviously.
show they care, yeah.
But you know, you could get along with them a little bit more, and we respected them way more. You know, I know it sounds bad, but like as a young 15-year-old, you respect someone who's not your mate, but you know, can get you or understand you a bit better. You know, because I always heard they'll get out of the class. That was me. But the couple of teachers that didn't do that, that's the ones that you respected, and I didn't play up in their class.
Yeah, interesting.
Can I just say something?
Sia.
So, brother here, we were talking outside about, you know, engaging students and engaging them to learn. And I think one of the things we touched upon was actually teaching things that are relevant to them. Like, you know, when we talk about relevance, like, you know, some of these kids that we're teaching in these low SES schools, they don't want to know what Pythagoras' theorem is, but, you know, let's teach them about, okay, look, how if you go to the shop, you've got to buy this at Woolworths, how much is this going to add up to? They're going to want to learn that because, you know what, that's life experience. That's what they want to learn. Wow. And so I think we need to, as teachers, I think we need to change the way that we're teaching this generation and start making it relevant to them, you know, and then maybe they'll engage with us a little bit more, as well as caring about them. That's 100%, because I know, having teenagers myself, I can tell when a teacher doesn't like my child. And I think the other thing we spoke about too was, how many times do you get a phone call from a teacher about your child and it's a bad phone call? Like, why aren't we as teachers ringing home and saying, hey, you know what, your kid did a great job today. Do you know what he did? So then he's getting praise at home and praise at school.
Which is adding to the confidence, right, in another environment, not just the classroom. Yeah. Thank you, Sia. You got any reflections on what we've been talking about, Albert?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think kids, they spell love differently. They spell it T-I-M-E. Then they spell it L-O-V-E. Yeah, like someone said, like a teacher that takes time out for a student, a lot of kids tend to gravitate to that. You know?
Yes, yes.
And again, go back on that, being relevant with the kids that we work with. I had a boy who they just couldn't work with this one student. He came to my office and deputy said, can he do something with him? So as soon as he walked in, I said, here, have a popper and a packet of chips, and sat there and I said, what are you into? And he says, motorbikes. I said, cool. If I was to buy a model motorbike and you was to bring it here, you put it together for me and you tell me the pieces from that. And the conversations that I have with those students over putting a motorbike together, it's priceless, man. It's, you know, you find what they're into, and that's your starting point, rather than trying a starting point from what I think would crack this kid.
Yes.
But I always go back to, what are your interests? What do you like?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes I get interns come in and you can just tell their heart's not in it, and they just think, oh, interior design's fun. But again, it's like teaching. There's long hours, there's a lot of stress, especially in my case. Sometimes I design $10 million houses, and that's a lot of pressure. And I think they don't realise, if they're not passionate, they're not going to go far. I believe whatever you do in life, you have to be passionate.
Yes.
And you have to be happy with what you do, because there's nothing worse than going to a job you don't like, because you don't perform well and you won't grow.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Albert. Jeremy.
I was just going to say as well, just to add to that as well, I think for me, the big thing as an educator is, obviously with any class that I teach, the biggest thing that I tell them is respect. Respect for myself, respect for others, respect for your teacher. And I think for me, if they don't learn anything whatsoever that I'm teaching them, whether it's essay writing or pedal paragraphs or whatever it is that I'm teaching, I know that they're going to be quality people when they leave my classroom. And that's the thing that I think matters the most. And I think particularly with the associate teachers that I teach, that I train or guide as well, it's a fundamental skill that they need to know as well. Respect. You know, coming into the profession, not just working hard at your job, but little pleasantry things like saying good morning to your boss, you know, saying goodbye, asking if anyone else needs help on your team. They're the skills that are going to get you the job, on top of knowing your stuff, but being a good person, I think, is a big thing. So it's something that I always instill in my own practice, is being a good individual.
Sorry, Alicia, go ahead.
To build on that,
And I find, like, again, I'll have staff come in and they're just not dressed, they're just sloppy. And you're like, it's just value your appearance, because a client will see that and it represents the brand, it represents the business. And I think it's respecting, even in anything you do, even your craft. So I agree with you completely there. Respect.
Who do you value, did you say?
All of this, and valuing the kids. Like, how can I put it? Like, for example, last term, I said to the principal, look, we've got to do something that's fun for the kids, right? Because at the time, the morale was down. Everyone was dragging their feet out of the school. I said to the principal, we've got to do something fun, and let's value these kids. Let's celebrate who they are. Let's celebrate their cultures, their background. So we said, look, come in your own background attire, whatever it may be, and let's celebrate that. You know, and then I said to the principal, let's get some food trucks out. So we've got food trucks out, and then the principal goes, oh yeah, are they coming in for free? And I said, no, you pay for it. I said, if you want to value these kids, then show them value. I started saying, there's not value. There's no value in these kids. And that day happened, and it was one of the best days this year because we put time, we put money into valuing these kids and showing the kids that, you know what, you're worth a food truck coming here. Yeah? And even the kids that never spoke up, they're coming up and going, oh, so how much do I pay for this? And it's all for free. And again, it's creating those platforms, creating spaces for these kids to feel valued. And then once they feel valued, they start to respect themselves. Yeah? Rather than trying to, hey, respect. But if you value them, they find that value in themselves. And then they start to respect themselves, then they start to respect others. You know? I do it funny sometimes at school because I'm Samoan and I'm such a big guy. You know, I think the kids are scared of me sometimes.
You're not that big, you've only got 13.
I just take their food and share it with them in the office, you know what I mean? So,
Great. I was going to
Thank you.
what you said there, but I think you sort of create a really good culture in the school. You give sort of, I think it's a really good environment to want to learn. So I think as you get older, you sort of lose that love of learning. So I think as, you know, sort of start teachers, I think, you know, find the love for learning, and, you know, if you're a good teacher, you're more inclined to want to listen or focus on because there's respect and whatnot. But again, if the school culture is shit, you're not going to want to be there as well, you know. So, yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, I'll give a business perspective on that. Love to learn. And I don't know where it comes from, whether it's hardwired into individuals or whether it's because of good teachers, right, at a young age. But the A-class business owners that I and my team who's here tonight see in dealing with their valuations, their advice, transactions, the A-class business owners never ever lose the love to learn. Never ever. It's a defining point. If there's nothing else, you know, they've got a voracious appetite, and they might be 40, 50, 60, even 70, into their 80s. But the really good ones, they're still surveying the information, understanding their industry, picking up pieces, refining things. And yet there are plenty of business owners that after 35, they shut off, right? And they're still good businesses, but they're not the A-class businesses. It's a key, from my perspective, it's a key defining point. So I appreciate you raising it. You guys have got a lot of responsibility. Jeremy, did you ever think back at Macquarie Uni when you were 19 in second year or whatever, did you ever think you'd be here now, shaping the, you know, helping to shape the lives and provide, you know, some of the young people in Western Sydney the tools to carry on their journey?
I don't think I would have predicted to be exactly in the role that I am now. I always knew, well, at that stage, I knew that I did want to be a teacher, but I never saw myself in a leadership role in any capacity. Yeah. So I think it's just, I don't know, things just fell into place. I found something that I loved and just followed that journey, and it led me to where I am now.
And who do you rely on to help you with that journey now?
I think it comes down to my family. So my beautiful family over there. Yeah. I was raised by my mum, my dad, and then when mum and dad got divorced and separated, I was raised by my beautiful grandma over there as well. So I really look forward to, well, I know mum and grandma, I always rely on them and, you know, give them a call whenever I'm stressed or upset.
Mum and grandma, is he difficult? Difficult? Quite difficult, I imagine. Yeah?
But yeah, I think just, you know, seeking that life advice and, you know, getting that constant reassurance from people that you trust and that you love, I think has been a really good source of guidance for me to navigate.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, no worries.
Albert, I want to tackle a couple of things that you and I spoke about, but I'm open to other discussions here. But you mentioned that you learnt something from a young person one day in a discussion, and I think that was a very interesting kind of insight, because my sense is that all of us, no matter what age, sometimes we're receptive to people talking to us and trying to help us, and sometimes we're not, right? How is that dynamic? And, you know, because making a connection is so important, right? It's important in the community, it's important as individuals, it's important in relationships, it's important in business, right? So would you like to share that with us, if you can remember?
Yeah, the girl or the boy?
I think it was a boy, yeah.
Look, when I first started working in the education system, I thought I was Superman. Ran in with my cape and was going to change the world. You know, I was going to change the world overnight. But I learned quickly that I burnt out because I didn't realize it was a marathon. But I did the 100-meter dash at the time, you know. So I put all my effort into that 100 meters and I burnt out. And slowly, year after year, I started, you know, growing, mature. And there was one kid that I worked with at Dunhaven High School. I worked with him from year 7 to year 10. And got nothing from him. Like, nothing changed. He was still naughty, still did what he did. And then because Dunhaven campus was a junior school, they go to a senior campus in Mount Druitt for year 11 and 12. So once he finished with us, he moved on. So then I hadn't seen him for 2 years. And right at the end of his year 12, I got an email from him. And he said that, hey, Albert, I just want to thank you for not giving up on me, not turning your back on me, because what you said back then, I realize now because I'm a little bit older. And that was a benchmark for me. What that taught me was never take anything personal. The behavior of a child is their behavior, and it's not me. So I think what I learned from that was, no matter how hard the child is, if I can just plant a seed in there, if I can just say something that could change his dynamics, change his pathway, 4 years, 5 years. I get kids who have finished 10 years after school day. I meet them out, you know, in shopping center somewhere, and they always come up and it's the same thing. You know what, Albert, man, I thank you for saying what you said back then. I didn't get it when I was with you, but I got it now that I had my own kids. And yeah, so.
I did that recently. I reached out to my TAFE teacher 10 years later, and she was so shocked and she was so thankful because I had to tell her she made a difference. And she believed in me when no one didn't. And you always remember who believed in you. And planting the seeds, you don't see it at the time, but you always take what they say 10 years later and it embeds in you. Yeah, so I've just recently done that myself.
Thank you for sharing that, Alicia and Albert.
Those teachers need to get the most money, paid the highest, right?
I tell you something, bro. Working in the school system, working in the Department of Juvenile Justice, for me is when I see that kid from that kid, when he grows up and has his own family, and when I see them flourish, nothing can buy that.
Add to that value, the value itself.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes money does change the way you work sometimes. You know what I mean? But for me, money comes and it goes. Pays bills, it does, you know. A lot of people might have different opinions. They want to be millionaires. But I tell you now, a lot of millionaires are alone. You know, they're really alone by themselves, you know. But I'll find some families who don't have nothing, but they have everything. Yeah, they have the riches of the world, man. Like, and that's for me. Like, it's about planting those seeds in a time when it's like you don't plant a seed today and think there's going to be a tree tomorrow, right? It's going to grow over time, and I believe it's everything that we're doing. And a lot of people that are here today, you know, they might not see the outcomes tomorrow, next week, or the week after. But I tell you, once you see the outcome, man, nothing can take that joy away from you, you know what I mean? So, and I think it's, just one other story. I think I was going to a meeting at a school and I saw this girl crying behind a canteen. I didn't know who she was. I just saw her crying there and I walked up to her and said, hey, you're okay? And she says, these kids said something about me. And I said, look, never let the words of those people define who you are. You're who you are and be the best at who you will become. And that's all I said. Never saw her again. I think it was about 15 years later, I was at Ripples, swimming pools. And this lady comes up to me, she says, hey, is your name Albert? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I'm a police officer now. And I remember what you said that day changed the direction and it put me on this path to being a police officer to help other people, you know. So I think it's, teachers, I take my hat off to you guys for the job that you guys do at school each and every day. You guys get sworn at, you hurled abuse at every single day, but yet you still come back into those gates every single day.
Well, look at this kids. One. She's wanting to get in the gates. She's wanting to give it a crack. How good is that? Hey?
So,
Thank you, Albert. Greg, what was that like in those days leading up, you know, in the footy days, right? Because I guess people would sow seeds, give you feedback on how you're playing and what have you, but it's a very focused environment, isn't it? Like you live or die based on, you know, how you perform minute to minute. So does that mean that your mind became attuned to performance in a hyper way, and there wasn't the longevity of what we've just been talking about, right? And has that meant that in business with Creative Spring, you know, you've been able to train your mind to, you know, to sort of, you know, continuously learn, improve, take feedback, take criticism, etc. Is that a thing, or am I imagining that?
No, I think there's lots of transferable skills that you can take from anything, you know. It's a matter of being mindful of them as well and actually pursuing that. So for me, through sport, I've felt that, again, a lot of tools to transition, you know, over into the real world, so to speak. But I think that everyone always say footy players are dumb, you know. It's like a common thing back in the days, or probably even now. But I think to be in that elite level, you have to be pretty switched on. You know, there's a lot that comes with it that people don't really see. And I think as athletes, or just people that want to pursue that as a career, just be mindful of that as well. You know, you do have a lot more to offer. And when you are transitioning, if you have a sudden injury, it's not the be all end all, you know. I think it's just a matter of leveraging, you know, from your time there, that can make it a lot easier. Like me, I had nothing, you know, so I sort of started from scratch, just build myself back up again.
And that's where that program you've developed is going to integrate that future step.
I'm interested, Alicia. I guess we're talking about sowing the seed and developing a team, right? And we're talking about young people, but I see it from the business lens as well, right? There's a bunch of business owners and managers and leaders in businesses, and they've got diverse teams with capabilities and skills, and they're trying to get them to a high-class, high-performance team. What challenges do you have in employing young people in your business? You've mentioned that, you know, you have some interns. Yeah. What are you looking for? What are the positive things that you're looking for that if people find their way into your business, they normally do well at, I guess?
So one thing I've noticed with this young generation, I feel like I'm the generation above this young generation. I feel like it's an instant gratification. Like they look at social media and they're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be this. So a lot of interns come in, or a lot of people introducing just from uni, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And it's like, well, hold on, there's a ladder. It's, you know, you got to work your way up. You got to work hard. And I didn't have social media back in the day. I had the yellow pages. I'd sit down and call anyone that would give me a go. And I'm like, I'll work for free. Just let me do something. And
is the yellow pages a thing anymore? Sorry, Telstra. But
I don't think so.
yeah. That's fascinating, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But that's the struggle I had. This generation has it really easy with social media. I feel like they've got more opportunities than what the generation, I'd say the millennials had, or the people above us. I feel like there's opportunities are more accessible to what we had to work harder. So I feel like opportunities are there, but some people just feel like it's too hard. I'll put in the too hard basket, but I want it anyway.
Yes.
So I'm finding all that, but then you do get your good interns, and you get the ones that come in and they're dedicated, they're committed, and I sift through them. I give them 2 weeks and I know, and I'm like, you're out the door. And you just know the ones that are passionate and the ones that will come in and work for free to learn, and you know the talent and you know the nurturing you have to give them, but it will pay off because I see myself in them and how I was.
Yeah, nice. And is that satisfying? Sorry, I'll come to you, Dale. Is that satisfying to work with those young...
It's the best.
Yeah?
It's the best.
Why?
Like, I have an intern with me right now. Say hi, Belle.
We might get her to comment. No, you can't. You can't heckle either.
So Belle's here right now. Like, my other staff live far away, but what I'm saying is the dedication. I know dedication, and she's going to go very far.
Promotion tomorrow.
Yeah.
I ran a bricklaying business for 3 or 4 years, and the kids that come through today's day and age, and that was just recently I ran this company. A first-year apprentice wants to be running the job straight away, right?
Yeah.
But I will say the best workers come from the low socioeconomic areas for trades anyway, like I think. All good families that are used to trades. A lot of like the Maltese, cultures and Europeans, they come from good families and they want to work hard. But like you said, the social media, because there's so many options out there and other opportunities, which is fine. It's really good that it is a thing now and people can make money through social media and influencing and stuff like that. But if for someone that wants to just work in a normal job,
That's right.
you can't just jump straight to the...
And I find on social media now there's a lot of fakeness where a business, you'll look at a business and you're like, wow, but then when even a person's life, and when you look behind the lens and you take away all the wool, it's very fake. And I feel like that they idolize that fakeness, and they don't realize that it's not real. And the reality is you have to work hard to make it. You have to work hard. So they just see, oh, look how pretty she is, look how successful, look how rich she is. But they don't know that she could have hired a Louis Vuitton bag just for her photo. They don't realise that it's not what it appears.
Yeah, very interesting. It's a complex environment that young talented people are growing up in, isn't it? Has anyone else got comments on that? Because I'm sensing the need to pour a few beers here, and I think we might just go around my little circle of friends here and perhaps call on last reflections on this evening. And I might add one just now to give you each a chance to have a bit of a think. I think there's a lot that's come out of this evening, but don't take Western Sydney for granted. This place, this area, these people are talented. They are innovative. They have more than what it takes to deliver something different and special. And, that's not just talk, because, the very nature of being in this building and what Drink West have done just shows one aspect. The very nature of six living proofs here with me shows another aspect. And it's not all about fast cars and, fancy shiny things, because some of the things that people in Western Sydney build, they build for the future, for the long term. And I know, as someone that works with businesses, and I've talked about the characteristics of A-grade businesses. Most of those are long-term thinkers. Now, that doesn't mean that they, take decisions in the short term to change what they do, but the really good, successful business owners have an aspiration and a future and a vision far off. But they're not just dreamers, they're able to take the steps and figure out the struggles and way through the struggles to get there. So that's a little reflection I have, but Sia, give us your take on this evening and just anything that you feel we might have missed that you'd like to share.
No, I just want to thank you, James, for the opportunity to share tonight. And I've learned a little bit more about each person that's sitting here and a little bit more about your background of your businesses and how you got there. So for me, it's really inspiring. And, for me to be teaching youth, like there are, I have a lot of students that are sport, but they just don't know where to go or how to pursue that. So, meeting gentlemen like you and it's just, it's opened a door to what's out there in our community, So, go Western Sydney, hey?
Thanks, Sia. Jeremy?
As Sia said, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
James, it's been wonderful. And I think the thing that I found amazing about talking with each and every one of you is that we all have a common thread, and that is no matter what profession we're in, whether it be sport, whether it be education, it's all about developing respect. It's all about relationship building, and it's all about communication. And I think those were the three lessons that I took from talking to each and every one of you, and getting to know more about your stories, both on a personal and a work level. So I'm really appreciative of this session.
Thanks, Jeremy. Albert?
Again, like these guys have said, thank you, James, for the opportunity. I guess for me, it's at the end of the day, just on my shirt, never give up. There's always hurdles in front of us, and there's always going to be hurdles once you get past those other hurdles. But it's about knowing who we are, knowing where we come from, and understanding our purpose and our goals in life. And once we grab a hold of that, And for me, just anyone out there, there's always someone else. You've probably heard this millions of times. There's always someone else worse off than us. But never sit in that seat long enough to feel that way. So if you come across a hurdle, never give up. Keep going forward. And up the wires, up to Western Sydney.
Thanks, Albert. Dale?
I think I'll learn to stop thinking about money so much. I think, like, with the education and stuff as well, for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 12, 13, 14. That's when they sort of start pushing it on you. Not really, it's 16, 17, but they push you to go to uni or do a trade or whatever, which is fine. And uni is for some people that need to have proper professions. But there's a lot of...
I didn't go to uni, so don't look at
What? It's not a uni degree?
No,
okay.
I didn't go to uni.
TAFE.
You can still make it.
That's it, exactly. I went to uni, I dropped out twice. Did a bit of TAFE here and there, all different other things, like bits and pieces, and I'm 29 now, doing something that I think is going to be what I'll do forever, but it just shows you don't need to know what you want to do when you're 18, 19. Like, you got so much time ahead of you in the future to figure out what it is that you do want to do.
I love that, because it's about kind of being deliberate in the journey, but not punishing yourself because you don't know whether it's the thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. And in any event, you don't have to do a thing for the rest of your life, right? So thank you, Dale. Alicia?
sitting here listening to everyone's stories, I've worked out we have something in common. Apart from respect, it's we want to make a difference. And I know I'm an interior designer, but I don't know, I just feel like I love inspiring people on, and I think whether it's you want to make a difference in to people who have talent and who can't be seen, and in your case where, you know, you had everything, you had the world and then it got taken away and then you've made something of yourself from it, you know, from your experience. I feel like we want to make a difference, and especially we want to make a difference in our home. And that's, you know, I feel like Western Sydney is evolving, we're changing, and this airport is going to take us to a whole new level. And I feel like, you know, it's growing, and I can see the growth. Like I grew up in Ridley Hill and then I moved out to Penrith. But I can see the growth, and it's a good thing. But I think, yeah, making a difference is, our hearts are in it. So that's the main thing.
I reckon the next venue for the next panel podcast might be on an A380. What do you reckon? At the airport, do you think?
Buy property before it hits.
Might be a bit noisy.
Might be a bit noisy. Thank you, Alicia. Greg.
There was 3 things I wanted to say. I didn't know when to dive in the conversation before. One was all you guys are in 3 different schools, and I think you guys are doing really good things in the schools. But I think sometimes I feel like schools might see themselves as see themselves as footy teams, like they're always competing. You know, I feel like you guys should work together to sort of see what is going good. Like, why is this school so good? The engagement or their culture so good, like just actually communicate together, just collab on things, like just, you know, think that probably needs to happen more.
Sorry, can I just jump in a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
So the reason why schools are like that, we actually, in Australia, we have a very segregated school system. So we have independent schools and then we have public schools, and where the funding goes, the majority of that funding will go to like private schools and schools within, you know, these eastern suburbs areas, because the government sees them as those young people are the next generation that are going to, you know, be something. And so there is a lot of funding that goes out to our schools in the western suburbs, but there's not a lot of resources that we get for our kids. Yeah. And so when we say, we should communicate, it's very segregated. So
yeah, but just like things, you know, the brother was saying that, you know, he organised a day, another school could take note, it doesn't have to be nothing too crazy, just, you know, some of the structures that you're putting in place, you know, other school could take note as well. I just feel like communication, I'm not sure how it's going to work, you know, as you said, you know, very segregated, but I think that could be a change that probably needs to happen, you know. The other one as well was just around athletes or just young people in general. I think for us as the community leaders, just be mindful of not to judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. That always sort of chestnut. I think it's important to help them, guide them to find what they're passionate about or find their purpose as well. And I think that sort of was relevant to me as an athlete transitioning as well, finding out where I can utilise my skills accordingly, and just, you know, going hard with it. And the final thing I wanted to say, number 3, just to wrap it up, is for the young people out there, one thing I always say is trial and error. I think that's a big thing. So don't be afraid to fail. I think when you fail, it's like eventually, whatever it is, you know, it's one thing, you know, that, you know, you can tick that off your list. But I think it's important to fail early, you know. So from a young age, do that business when there's no big overheads, you know, there's no electricity bill to pay, still living at home with mum and dad, make all the mistakes, find out all the jobs that you don't want to do, so when, you know, later down the road, you can sort of be happy where you are and everything's purposeful. So, yeah. Thank you. That was it. You know, I'll probably finish with my slogan is prepare today and grow tomorrow. So.
Prepare today and grow tomorrow. Sorry, Dale.
Also, just on that, on the last point, I'm 29 with 2 kids, bills, the whole shebang, and still, like, we sold our house to start this new business. Like, we're doing, you know, we're just having a crack, and don't be scared to. Nah, that's it. 100%.
Well, I kind of had a little bit of a career, then I had kids, and then I had a career break for like a while, and then my career came after I had my children. So it's kind of like, it never is too late, never.
But do try early, like, because it's better when it's not, you don't have kids and all that.
I don't know whether we can finish. I mean, you know, some of those some of those points are really important, right? I reflect on a podcast shoot that we did just recently, and we haven't released this Let's Talk Business podcast, so it's episode 19, but it's with a strong, successful business in Western Sydney, in St Mary's. And the owner said to me, James, he said, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. And I thought to myself, well, and here I am, a business advisor, and I'm providing all this sophisticated advice, and at the end of the day, it says a lot, right? You're not going to get fed if you don't risk it. And that doesn't mean you take, risks that are, so difficult that they're life changing. But you've got to have a crack if you really want to deliver against your own aspirations and desires and goals. Dale, I'm trying to wind up. What did you want to say?
It's all good.
No, come on.
I was going to say what Albert said, money comes and goes. So if you do take a risk and it fails, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
For me, we sold our house, but I'll get back, if this fails, I'll get back to work 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, 10 years, I'll buy another house for my family.
And that's a great attitude, right? And that's a long-term attitude. Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's do a plug. Just on his...
would you like to do a plug? Go.
Yeah, just on what you said, for the schools to connect. Elevated, there's a festival coming up on the 18th of November, and I think you should have these guys on your podcast next time. But there's about 15 schools, entertainment, and it's just about bringing Western Sydney together and showcasing our kids. Give them a platform to showcase who they are and what they believe in and their culture. So that was just a plug. Just.
Thank you, Albert. You got that in?
KFC meal for you guys.
Just what do you do with a big KFC meal? Now, I think there's a round of applause coming from the audience for my 6 guests. I'm so grateful to be able to kick around with these 6 talented individuals and to share their stories with you tonight. And in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be releasing the full podcast of tonight. And go to Spotify or where you get all your good podcasts and have a listen and enjoy. We'll also be releasing some reels of some of the key points along the way over the next couple of weeks as well. I really thank the audience for being here and participating. It shows that you care, and you care about some important things about how we establish a strong and healthy young community in Western Sydney and develop the talent of our young people in Western Sydney. So thank you one and all. Thank you, guests. I really appreciate you being involved. And follow the Let's Talk Business podcast. I'm your host, James Price. Thank you very much.